I'm the Who Guy and welcome back to a bumper video, a very long one. We are continuing on with the Hachette Dalek Partworks series, but today instead of the regular 4 issues that we usually do, we've got 8 in this very video. I'm very much behind on this build and I do know that, so if you do want to skip to any part in this video, I'll put timestamps on your screen now so you can skip to a certain issue, and I know I'm very behind on this, so I'm trying to catch up all in this one bumper video. So we've got issue 31 to 38 to build in this very video, and if you haven't already, check out the Hachette Partworks playlist where you can find all the videos that we've done so far on this Dalek build. So I can't wait, let's get straight into the build. So timestamps on your screen now if you want to skip to a certain issue, but let's get straight into issue 31, the first issue we're taking a look at in this video. You can see we've got the gold banner, so let's rip this open. So we've got our part box and our magazine, and taking a look at the magazine, once again dented as usual. They really need to package these much better, but we get the Dalek on the front as usual, the number of the issue, the Dalek banner in bronze this time. Of course, these are published weekly, or you can subscribe to Hachette for 4 issues a month, and that would cost you $11.99 each. We've got loads of Dalek stuff inside this magazine, as well as our step-by-step instructions. Opening up the magazine, we've got the contents page just stating what is going to be inside this magazine, and our adventure in time and space is Children of the Revolution, which is a story from a Doctor Who magazine. So as you can see, it goes through all into detail all about that Dalek story, as well as loads of photos from that Doctor Who magazine Dalek episode, and it just goes really in depth into the whole of Who, including TV stories, and like you can see here, other media. And our time vortex is all about an enemy of the Daleks. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but as you can see, loads more information about some enemies of the Dalek. And then we're into our instructions, which looks like we're continuing on with our next section. Pretty much seems like we're going to be repeating steps that we did in the last episode, so this should be pretty straightforward. And then on the back we get our part list and a little sneak peek of the magazine coming up in the next issue. Got our part box, let's get this open. And inside, as ever, is always packaged really nicely. So here are our parts, let's get building. So firstly, what it would like us to do is grab our next section that we were building in our last issue, and what it would like us to do is pretty much repeat what we did on this left hand side and now do it on the right. So it wants us to grab our part marked C, and that should just slot into place like so into our Dalek like that. And with that pushed into place, now we need to fix it in place with 3 FP screws. So a pretty simple step to start us off. So let's get them screwed into place. And with that done, now we need to grab our part marked D, and this should once again just slot into the 3 pegs here, so making sure that is all aligned. What you want to do, make sure the D is at the top, and that should just slot into place like so, just like our previous issue. And with that slotted into place, we then need to grab this part, which is labelled 31B, and once again that should just slot into place like so. Clipping that into place, make sure you're getting all of these little bits inside the little indentations there, and that should just slot into place like so. It can be quite loose right now. And now we need to attach it with 3 FP screws into those holes and then 6 AP screws into those ones. And hopefully that will kind of hold this into place a little bit better. What I'm going to do is actually just press this against it just to make it a little bit more flush, and then add our screws in. So with that fully into place, let's add those 3 FP screws. It does kind of feel a bit overkill because I don't think that part's going anywhere, but we'll add them just in case. And so with that fully into place, we've got one more step to do. And once again, should be similar to this side. It should just slot into place. Slot this in. So with that into place, that is everything for this issue. So we've done all the inner workings once again on the midsection, and then we've added this outer casing part. So I assume we'll be adding the further bits like we did on this side. So let's get straight into issue 32. So here's issue 32, let's get it open. And if you do enjoy these Hachette Partwork videos, make sure to give the video a like. So we've got our part box and our magazine, and taking a closer look at issue 32's magazine, we get the blue banner on this one, we've got the 4th Doctor there, and of course our step-by-step instructions. Opening it up, we get this nice contents page showing what we get inside, and our adventure in time and space in this issue is Energy of the Daleks, which was a big Finnish audiobook. We get loads of behind the scenes all about the audiobook, including that this was Tom Baker's very first big Finnish audio story, so that's pretty cool, and it of course included Leela. And then we get into the 8th Doctor versus the Daleks. Of course, the 8th Doctor only having the TV movie. However, he has come up against the Daleks multiple times, as you can see in novels and audiobooks. It's crazy to see how many stories he has with the Daleks. And we're straight into our next section, step-by-step instructions with our part list and our actual instructions showing us what we've got to do on this issue. And on the back, we got our little sneak peek for issue 33 coming up in this video. So here are our parts for this issue. Let's get building. So with our next section back into shot, what we firstly need to do is add screen grid to our Dalek. Be the same as all the other issues, where we just need to line up these holes with these pegs, and that should just slot into place like so. And what we need to do is just press that down and add one of our fixing strips next, and that should just clip into place like so. So just lining it up, just like the previous issues that we were making. Now need to fix 3 JP screws into that. And now with those into place, that ain't moving anywhere. And then basically we just need to repeat that step with these 3 pegs. Just push this down so we can actually slot it into place. And that should just clip into place like so. And that looks really, really cool, as you can see. And now it actually wants us to switch back to the previous side that we were working on in the previous video on this Dalek build, and add these 2 cover brackets over the deflector strips. So we have put 2 of these on before, but now we've got a further 2 to add there, and they just clip in with the pegs, as you can see, so no screws required, and this just covers up the actual real screws, and they should just plug into place like so. And with them pushed into place, that looks really cool. And once again, just hides the actual real screws and makes it look a lot more Dalek-like. And that is everything in this issue. Let's get into issue 33. So here's issue 33, let's get it open. So we got our part box and our magazine. The red banner this time, we've got the Dalek Sec on the front cover, which is pretty cool. And of course our step-by-step instructions. Opening up the magazine, we finally get the return of the artwork, which is really nice because we haven't had that in a lot of issues. I really do like when they have this inside cover art, and this time it's a red Paradigm Dalek. We get the contents page on the following page this time. Opening up this magazine, of course, once again, filled with loads of Doctor Who Dalek stuff. Adventure in Time and Space this time is the Pentanare Factor. So just something really niche in the world of Doctor Who being featured in this magazine. It's some really nice artwork inside this. And then on the next page, we continue that Adventure in Space and Time with Plague of the Death. And in this issue, the Time Vortex is all about the Cult of Skaro. So we get a mix of new series and classic stuff in this magazine. Straight into our step-by-step instructions, which is all about the next section, of course. And finally, a sneak peek of what's coming up later in this video. So here are all our parts in this issue. And firstly, what I would like us to do is add these 2 parts together. This should just be a push fit. Taking both of the parts, turning it around, and this little insert should just slot into place. We've done this before multiple times in previous issues, so it is a bit repetitive, but with that pushed into place, that is that part done. And then we need to grab our next section once again, turn that around, and we need to add this to our top bit here. So once again, this should be similar to what we did last time, where you hover above it, just try and get it all aligned, and then it should just kind of slot down into place. As you can see, you just push it down like so. And so with that all pushed into place, can be quite difficult all to line up. We need to now fix that. 2 FP screws, 1 in there and 1 in there. And with that into place, that looks absolutely stunning now. As you can see, we're really starting to take shape of this next section. And it's really nice that this really pretty much lines up perfectly. So we haven't done anything wrong that I can think of yet.
Oh, I wish.
But that is not it, because now we need to add cover brackets once again. And once again, exactly the same as previous issue. We just plug these into place to hide those screws. That is just a simple push fit into the Dalek neck section. And that's that for this issue. So everything done in this issue. Let's continue with the build in issue 34. So into issue 34 now. Let's get this open. And inside we've got a very scrunched up magazine, unfortunately, and our part box. Really wish they packaged these better, but we get the blue banner this time, our step-by-step instructions, and looks like we're going to be looking at some Dalek Mutant. Opening up the magazine, you've of course got the contents page as usual, and also our adventure in space and time this time is Genesis of the Daleks, Part 6. Yes, the 1975 episode is fully explained inside this issue, as well as some behind-the-scenes casting and behind-the-scenes looks. Our anatomy of the Dalek this time is a Dalek mutant Stegnos, the famous glass see-through Dalek. This looks awesome. And then we're into our next section, step-by-step instructions, and it looks like we've got some more deflector strips to attach to our next section. So quite a bit to do in this issue. And then on the back, a sneak peek at what's coming up. So quite a few parts in this one. So firstly, what they would like us to do is grab these two parts. They are both numbered 2 and put them together like we have been doing. So once again, you just line up the peg holes and the pegs, and that should just clip into place like so. Just a push fit, no screws needed for that part, and that is that bit done. And then what it would like us to do is grab our next section that we've been building in this issue and grab our part we've just made and attach it to the next section. Doing exactly the same steps we've done on the previous ones, and that is just holding it into place like so, and then all we need to do is just slot it into place like so, and that's into place. And now we need to hold that together with 2 FP screws. So that should be quite simple. Just screw these FP screws in. And when it's into place, you'll feel it. Now with that into place, that lined up all nicely. You can see there's a little bit of a join line, but it's nothing major. And then with those screws, we're going to cover those up with, of course, our covers had before, and they're simply exactly the same. Just the push fit as usual. Clip in like so. And with them in, that is that bit done. And as you can see, we are pretty much replicating exactly the same now of what we did on that other side. So we're all up to date on that. Now what we need to do is grab our 2 other deflector pieces, and they now need to go into these slots here. So this is a bit different to the previous ones where we're not pushing anything into this bit, as this black rim here should fill the place of that. And once again though, all we have to do is line that up, push it down into place. And there you go, you can hear it click into place. So with that into place, and it's nice and flush with the bottom now, we need to attach that with 2 FP screws. So both of these FP screws should go in pretty simply, and this will just hold our Dalek bit in place. With those 2 in place, that is now fully secure, and as you can see, it's flush with that black part, so that's nice to see. And with that piece on, now what we need to do is grab another one of these 2 things. They are our little cover brackets, and they should, once again, just like the previous ones, just slot into place. No screws needed on that. There should just be a push fit. That hides all of the different screws that we've been putting into place. And as you can see, that looks absolutely awesome. And now we need to do all of what we just did on this part over here. Grabbing our piece once again, making sure it's all lined up. And that should all, once again, just slot into place like so. You will hear a click. Just like our previous part, we need to add our covers. It's simply just doing exactly the same, plugging them into place. And that's everything to do with those parts. We've still got another stage to do though in this issue, but that is looking pretty much perfect for our Dalek neck section now. And as you can see, it's really taken shape and really does look like the actual prop. So what it would like us to do now with this all into place is flip our model over. See all of these holes here? Well, we need to add JP screws into every single one of them. Now, isn't that going to be fun? So here's a little time lapse of me putting them in. That is all of those screws in. Does seem like a lot of screws for just a couple of parts, but they're all in, and that is it for this step. And I believe what we also need to do is feed these wires through these 2 holes here so they poke out down the bottom. So we're going to do that right now. It doesn't actually say to do this in the instructions, I don't believe. I think it's just expecting you to know.
Can't you read?
And I'm just stupid. It does say to do this in the instructions. Clearly I can't read. So here we go. So hopefully just feeding that through will poke it out the other end, he hopes. So with a bit of fiddling, I finally got one of them in. It's time to do the second one. I'm going to just do it off camera because, yeah, there was a bit of trouble trying to get that through there.
Oh, Tom, of course.
So yes, I definitely missed a step with those wires. It would have been much easier to do before putting those panels on. I know someone commented in my last video. Completely forgot, and yeah, so it was very hard, but I finally got them through. So that's that done. So straight into issue 35 now. Let's get this open. So there is our part box and magazine, and it looks like this time we're moving on to the base of the Dalek now, and I think we've completed that next section for a while. It looks like the War Doctor is going to be featured inside this magazine. Let's take a look. No return of the cover art in the inside, which is a shame, but we do get the contents and then into our adventure in space and time, and this time we're taking a look at Engines of War, which is a BBC book. One of the very few books I don't actually have in my Doctor Who collection. I definitely need to give this one a read. And then we get a feature on behind the scenes with Dalek visual effects, so this is pretty cool. And we're straight into our skirt section, base plate, step-by-step instructions. So it looks like we've got some metal parts in this one. And it looks quite complicated, so this is going to be a fun part of the build. And then we get a sneak peek of issue 36 coming further up in this episode. So here are all our parts, let's get building. A lot of people also have had a lot of problems with this, with the plate being the wrong way around and stuff like that. So I'm going to give it my best, but if you guys see me do anything wrong, make sure to comment down below and I'll make sure to fix it in the next episode. So what I would like us to do first is have the plate orientated this way round. I believe this is correct. Again, if I do get it wrong, make sure to comment down below. And it would like us to grab our part C and fit these 3 pegs into the 3 holes here. As you can see, there are 3 holes here, 2 going up, and then 3 holes here, 2 going up, but 1 in the corner. But no, I believe we need to fit it into this side. So what we're going to do is just plug that into place, making sure that these bits here, which don't have the indentations, are facing towards these dots, and that should just plug into place like so. And that's held into place, not fully, because we need to flip it over now and add some screws. And what we need to do before we put those screws in is grab one of these parts. There's 2 of them in this pack, so we can just grab one because they're exactly the same, and add this onto these little plugs here, and they just plug into there, making sure we have the dotted parts. There's a couple of dots there facing outwards once again. So that should just plug into place like so, because now we need to add our screws. That will be 3 JP screws into there. And that should be all into place now, and that's fully attached. I believe, again, that is the right orientation of that. Make sure to comment down below if I'm wrong. Now we can move on to our next step. And that next step, pretty much replicating what we did on this side, but with this smaller part. This one, these little bits don't come out as much, so it is much smaller. That needs to be now placed on this side with those 3 pegs there. Once again, we've got this all on the right orientation, so we need to make sure this slanted bit is facing this way towards these 2 dots here, because as you can see, it's hollow on this side when this side's filled in a bit. So that once again should just plug into place. We should flip that around once again. Once again, exactly the same. Now we need to attach this part once again, making sure the 2 knobs are pointing outwards, and that should just clip into place like so. And with that clipped into place, once again, 3 JP screws into those holes. So with all those 3 screws in place, all of these parts are now into place. We've got one final step to do in this issue. What we would like us to do is grab our final plastic part in this issue and add it into these 2 holes here. Once again, we've got 2 little pegs at the bottom, and you just need to line that up, making sure this sticky out bit at the top is facing towards the black part. And that should just slot into place. It will overhang over the metal, that is fine. And now we need to add 2 HP screws into those holes. It can be quite awkward to hold up, so you might need a hand with this part. And now with that in place, that is everything for this issue. So we're now getting started on the skirt. That does look pretty cool. Now let's get into issue 36. And if you are enjoying the video, make sure to smash that like button. Art box and the magazine with the silver banner this time, and it looks like we've taken a look at the 5th Doctor fighting the Daleks, and of course our step-by-step instructions. The contents page once again, and our adventure in space and time this time is the expedition. So we get loads of behind the scenes looks there, all in black and white, which is awesome. And we're taking a look at all of the times the 5th Doctor has beaten the Daleks. The different stories, whether that was on TV, books or audio. And then we're straight into our skirt section. Looks like we're going to be doing some very similar stuff, just like we did in the last issue. Yeah, looks pretty similar. Let's get building. Cool sneak peek at issue part 37, coming up later in this video. Here are all our parts for this issue, getting your money's worth in this one. And these parts are very similar to the ones we just made, and what it would like us to do, again, making sure it's the right way up. If I'm doing this one, again, comment. But we need to, again, to use the longer one, so once again, making sure that the indentations are facing outwards. Grabbing our part like this, and I believe we need to insert these three into here once again, and that should just line up like so. And once again, just making sure that the filled in section is facing outwards and not towards like this curved bit here. Once again, it's going to be the exact same process as that previous issue, where we have to grab one of these and put it on, making sure the knobbly bits are facing the two holes up. So that should just clip into place like so. And now what we need to do is, of course, use the trusty JP screws and put them into the holes there. With all those screws into place, that's all into place now. And now we continue on with the next step, which is once again repeating the exact same, but on the other side. Once again, this one being the smaller side. And just making sure we are once again using the filled in section, not the hollowed out one. And making sure that lines up like so, facing outwards. Flip it over, add our little panel piece, like so. And then add our 3 JP screws in. So with those screws into place, that is these two parts now fully assembled onto it. And now what I would like us to do is add these further 3 parts to this part and the previous part we built last time. And once again, it's exactly the same steps. So we've got to add these two to the part we made this issue. And once again, just slotting them both into the 2 holes here, making sure this outward piece is facing towards these black pieces, and they will slot into place. We need one here and one here. And just to show you from the other side, once they are plugged into place like so, we just need to add our HP screws into those holes. So with those 4 in, that's it for that part. Now we need to grab our part from the previous issue. Of course, we did add one in that previous issue, so now we just need to replicate it on the other side. Now with that into place, that is that part attached, and that is everything for this issue. So we've got our 2 skirt pieces here. I wonder if these are going to connect together in a further issue. Let's get into the next issue. Now we are in issue 37, and as you can see, a massive part in this one, so let's get it open. So we got our massive part and our magazine. Get the green banner this time, and it looks like we're looking at the Berserker Dalek in this one. And a load of screws, even an Allen key, it looks like, of some sort, and a big metal plate. We get our contents page and our adventure in time and space. This time is Resurrection of the Daleks, part 1. And it goes real in-depth of that 5th Doctor story. And then look at this, the Berserker Dalek. That would make a real cool character options figure. But yes, this, of course, was used in the Time War. Look at all of the different attachments on that. What a figure that would make. And then we're straight into our skirt section base plate assembly, step-by-step instructions. Adding those 2 plates together in this very issue. And that is what we're hoping to build by the end of all of these parts. In about a year's time. Exterminate, exterminate! And then a sneak peek at the last issue we're taking a look at in this video. Let's get our part out of this. So here are our parts for this issue: a real big plate, an Allen key, and some screws and nuts. This looks like it's going to be quite a complicated one, because we now need to grab our further parts that we've built in this video and attach it to this metal plate, making sure we've got this all aligned up well, because if it's not going to be aligned, it ain't going to work. What it looks like we need to do is possibly flip this over. I don't know whether the orientation of this matters much. 5 holes here and only 3 up there. But these sides aren't identical, so we actually do need to flip this, because as you can see, this side needs to go on the right hand side. That looks pretty good to me. So it looks like now what we need to do is have this over these. As you can see, you've got all of these little holes down the bottom. And it looks like we need to line them up with these holes down here. Hoping I'm doing this right. It does look very complicated, but this should all be aligned now. And what we now need to do is add the screws into all of those holes and then the nuts on top. So this is going to be fun. I'll try and do the best I can on this video. Try and just fix this plate first and then try and do that other one, because this is going to be quite difficult. I kind of figured it out in the end. It took me a while. So what you got to do is put one of these through the back of both of them, line it up, and then put the nut on. It's easier to do it one by one. I think if you try to do it all at once, it wouldn't go that well. So you just insert it, as you can see, at the back, hopefully line it up, poke it through. By the way, be very careful because you might lose them. Grab one of your nuts and that should just slot over there, and then you just need to twist in and tighten that into place. Again, with this being so small, it is very fiddly. I'm not a model maker either, so probably doesn't help. But finally, with that on, we can tighten that up. It won't go fully tightened, so this still will move and be loose, but it does say in the next issue we should be getting a socket spanner, and that should tighten them fully. But the more screws we're putting in here, the more aligned it's getting. I can see it already pre-aligning for me here. So now putting in the next one, that should just slot through like so. Grab another nut, and we've got to do this 4 times on each plate. Just make sure to take your time in this part because it can be quite fiddly and you don't want to get it wrong because then you're going to have to unscrew everything and all of that. So hopefully I'm doing this right, and hopefully none of you guys are saying I'm doing it wrong in the comments because, yeah, it's going to take me ages to redo this. And now for the final one on this plate is this corner one. And that one should just go in like so. And remember, you will get spare screws and nuts, so don't worry if you see extras because you're supposed to have extras. Now with that in, that is really sturdy. It will move a bit, but it is tightened as much as it should be. Just need to replicate what we just did there with this plate into here. So I'll get these ones on. I'll fast forward it. And hopefully this be all together. So that is finally that all into place. That was not fun at all. It isn't loose, but it isn't fully secure. But I'm sure we will be making it more secure in that next issue. So let's get into that very next issue. So here we have the final issue in this very video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know it is a long one. So issue 38 now. So we've got our part box and we get issue 38 with the orange banner this time. And it looks like we're looking at the third Doctor versus the Daleks in this one and more step-by-step instructions, including that spanner. Opening up the front page, you've got the contents as well as our adventure in space and time is part 1 of Death of the Daleks. The behind the scenes looks and a rundown of the episode with Sarah Jane and the third Doctor. And then we're into all of the stories that the third Doctor made an appearance with the Daleks. Absolutely love these sections in these magazines. And we're continuing on with our skirt section. We need the previous part once again to tighten up those bolts. And then we're going to be making an extra section of the skirt. A sneak peek at what will be coming up in the next episode of this Dalek build. And it looks like once again we're continuing on with the skirt piece. So here are all the parts for this issue, issue 38. So what I would like us to do first is grab our spanner, which has been included in this, and it's actually a really nice high quality one, so this is really nice to get. Grab our big part that we've been making in previous issues, and what we need to do is just make sure these are all tightened using our spanner and our previously given Allen key. I'm going to use them to tighten all of these up. Using those, they are now fully tightened and that ain't moving anywhere. It's all lined up pretty nicely. Hopefully I've done this all right. Now we can just put that to one side. We're done with that for this issue. Now we can continue on using a new part and build a bit more of this skirt section. And we need to attach this part. This part is smaller than this one, as you can kind of see the difference. So this part we need to insert into this one. Once again, similar of what we've been doing, making sure that these 3 pegs are going into these 3 holes. They, once again, slot into place, making sure the filled-in section, not the hollow side, is facing towards these 2. Flipping that over, just like we've been doing all of these different parts, and then applying one of these to it. Once again, the knob sides facing those. That will just clip into place. And once again, using our JP screws and inserting them into the 3 holes there. With those 3 screws in, we can now move on to the next step. And that next step is once again just adding this one this time with the real long one, screwdriver running away there. Another one of these plates and using the JP screws again. Those 3 holes like so, flipping it over, adding that, and then adding the JP screws. So with that into place, they're all fully secure. And now we can add our final part to this build. It's going to be as simple as ever. Once again, lining up the 2 pegs there into that hole right there, flipping this over, making sure it's all aligned, and then adding our HP screws into there. So these steps have been quite repetitive. We've kind of done similar stuff on each part, especially in these last 4 issues. It's pretty much just been screwing on these plastic parts, putting over covers, and then screwing it all together. But it's still an enjoyable build experience. And once again, in the description, there will be a link to the Hachette website where you can subscribe. And that is everything done for this issue and everything done in this very video. So that's everything built for these issues. I know it's been a long video, so thank you for watching it. Of course, I got confused, especially with those wires. Don't know what I was reading there. I just completely forgot about it. So sorry about that, but I got it done in the end. Much harder than it probably should have been. And we've, of course, now got our skirt section finally getting some shape to it, so that is really cool, and I can't wait for the next part of my Dalek build. And if you have enjoyed today's video, make sure to smash that like button, as well as comment down below if you're doing this build, how far you are into it. Make sure you're subscribed. I've been the Who Guy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!
Why can't you just say I did good?